This is another one of those problems we see a lot of on social media. They tell us what the solution isn't and challenge us to find the correct solution. Well, let's see if we can do it on this problem. First off, I have three groups of shapes that are worth a total of 45. So I'm going to use S to stand for each group of shapes. So that means three groups of shapes is going to give me a total of 45. To find out how much each group is worth, I can divide both sides by 3. And when I do, that tells me each group of shapes is worth 15. So when I come to the second problem, I can go ahead and substitute in 15 for that group of shapes. Plus, I also have two bunches of bananas here. So I'm going to use B to stand for my bunches of bananas. So that means I can do 2B plus 15 to give me a total of 23. To solve that, I can start by subtracting 15 from both sides. When I subtract 15 from both sides, that means my two bunches of bananas are going to be worth a total of 8. To find out how much each bunch is worth, I can divide both sides by 2. And when I do, that tells me each bunch is going to be worth 4. So when I come down to the third problem, I can put a 4 in place of those bananas. Added to that banana, I have two clocks. I'm going to use C to stand for clocks. So that means 4 plus 2 clocks is going to give me a total of 10. To solve that, again, I can subtract 4 from both sides. Now when I do, that means my two clocks are worth 6. To find out how much each clock is worth, I can divide both sides by 2. And when I do, each clock is worth 3. Now when I get to this last problem, it's not as simple as simply substituting in the 3 for the clock. Because if I notice here, each of these clocks is at 3 o'clock, this one is at 2 o'clock. Well, assuming they mean for all hours to be equal, that tells me this clock is worth 2/3 of 3. 2/3 of 3 is simply 2. Same thing with this bunch of bananas. You'll notice there's 3 bananas in each bunch. I know it's kind of hard to see the yellow on this paper, but it's easier to see in the original photo. Each of the other bunches of bananas was worth 4 bananas. So we're going to assume they intend for these bunches of bananas to be worth 3/4 of 4. Well, 3/4 of 4 means each of these bananas should be worth 3. Same thing on the shapes. These were made up of 3 figures. This one only has 2. While they're not all the same size, we're going to assume they mean for all parts to be equal. So that means this shape should be worth 2/3 of 15. 2/3 of 15 comes out to be 10. Now we have to pay attention to our signs. Up until this point, everything has been addition. And sure enough, between the first 2 figures there's an addition sign. Between the second 2 figures there's an addition sign. But between the last 2 figures there's a multiplication sign. This changes our order of operations because multiplication has to come before addition and subtraction. So first I need to multiply 3 times 10, and that gives me 30. Then I can worry about adding my 2 plus 3. Multiplication works from left to right, so 2 plus 3 gives me 5, and to that 5 I can add my 30. 5 plus 30 gives us 35. So we are going to predict, based on what we can observe on this picture, that the actual solution should come out to be 35.